Hello Supreme Commanders, friends, those on YouTube that have randomly gone and clicked, and of course the patrons that help prop up the channel here on Tactical Takeover. Got a fantastic game for you today. Don't even have to lie this time. It's a 4 versus 4 with an average rating 2,121 points on the old player rating, the true skill player rating, so very high game indeed. This game going down late last night, Saturday night. So it's probably a Saturday night Setons, but I think we can get away with it being a Sunday Setons as well. I suppose it depends where in the world you will be. Of one real interesting little tidbit, take a look at the North Pond here. We've got Foley, a 2400, up against the Wheelie, also a 2400. So two 2400s facing off on the Northern Pond. What more can you ask for? I don't know, perhaps some decent sunshine here in the UK is maybe one such thing. It's been a crappy summer, or crappy start to the summer, should I say. And some of you are saying, well, yeah, you live in England, for goodness sake, what do you expect? Well, even by British standards, it's been a pretty crap year. Anyway, you're not here for the forecast, are you? So let's get right on into it. So we'll start with Team 2 on the forward position. This was always my favourite position to play. When I used to play back in the day, we've got Nuggets, he's a 2k there. Seraphim making his way towards the mid, going first hand. Very typical opening there. Moving south in Beach, we've got, I'm just going to go Kuwa Kimaklep. It's a mouthful. We'll just stick with Kuwa. I'm sure I'm going to get somebody having a go at me in the comments for that. But you know what? It's a Sunday. Please go easy on me if you do. He's a 2100 Cybern anyway. In Sky Blue, going first land and making his way, as is always the case these days for the higher rated, towards the centre. Should we say that's at least the meta these days. In the rear with gear then in pink, we've got Triple F for Team 1. He's UEF, having gone first land, very typical opening. Also, we see a lot of manual reclaim there, getting these clumps of trees. You know, I always like to have a little look on what these engineers are getting. He's careful there to get the tree clumps before he travels through it, thus destroying the tree clumps. This engineer, well, it's actually blocked by some of the interface there. Already got himself 1,000 energy and 100 mass just by getting those tree clumps. That's going to continue. We'll perhaps check back on that in a bit once we finish the intros. Last but not least for Team 2, in Bran is Foley, the guy that we touched on before, 2,400 on the rating there, so extremely high. Also, Seraphim appears to have gone first air, second land, and that's because he'll be desperate to make sure that nobody else bags his side island. Speaking of which, looks like the Wiki, the first, I say the first player, yeah, it is, I think, the first player to get any sort of a unit on the other side of the field. It is just a scout. Introducing Team 2 then, today by far the lowest rated player in today's game, which is 1,500. He will still be above average, which is the crazy thing, although only just, I guess it depends on the type of map, is Kurultai. Rumour has it he's anything but average, so we'll have to see how that goes. In any case, he's making his way towards the centre there, burgundy red as Seraphim, with engineers escort, or an engineer escorting, trying to pinch that cheeky mass. So he's going to want to get stuck in right quick. We take a look to his north. Following the meta, we've got Delhi making his way down. Well, I say Delhi. This is actually the Wheelie who has renamed himself. I actually think the Wiki is the real Wheelie, and this is the Wheelie. Let's have a look what his full name is. It's somewhat truncated there. Oh, he's renamed himself to make it really difficult, but it could be Wheelie number 2. I'm not entirely sure. Either way, Delhi making his way. We'll perhaps refer to him as Delhi or Wheelie interchangeably. Making his way towards the centre. You can see that he's going to arrive at the same time as Kuwa. Always is confusing when these players chop and change their names, especially when they then do it within the game as well. In the rear with a gear for team number 1 there, we've got the actual Delhi. He's a 1900 UEF, having gone first and second air, and then you can see there the very quick air grade mechs upgrades thanks to the reclaim. I mean, look at this guy, this solitary engineer, already 3,200 energy, now 3,300. That's almost a full bar. If you take a look, it goes up to 4,000. And so, yeah, without this guy, he would have stalled, no doubt about it. And last but not least, certainly not least, he's a 2700 is the Wiki. Also having gone UEF beige, also having gone first air, second air. So, wow. The 2700 is going UEF. It's probably because it's not a bad faction. Alright, well with that, introduction's complete and we can focus on what's going on in the mid, and that's because Karoo, so that's what we're going with, Karul Tai, getting his first kill salmon. I'm going to make a pig's dinner out of some of these names. I think we'll just go with Karoo. I hope that's okay by you, Karoo. I'd rather get the first half of your name right than completely balls up the whole thing. You know us, like, from West. We're a bit ignorant when it comes to names and places. While the game continues to unfold, one interesting little tidbit for you. The entirety of the scores, so don't forget the Supreme Scoreboard here rounds off the scores, but the actual scores in today's game total 8,479. That's for the Northern team, so all the players added up their true skill ratings, versus 8,486. So those of you that were paying attention will have realised that's just 7 points between them. Karoo being a bit cheeky there, trying to wall in Kuwa as the artillery wanes in on him. Wasn't quite able to pull it off. Kuwa loses about half his health, as does Nuggets. The two commanders from the southern team, a little short on units it would seem. Both the commanders half health. The commanders for the northern team looking a little stronger. Certainly Wheelie almost at full health. But yeah, back onto the division. The southern team, therefore, 7 points across the board ahead, which is a very small advantage. Works out just shy of 2 points per player, of course, dividing the 7 points through the 4 players. And so I actually asked ChatGPT, what does that actually mean when it's at home? And ChatGPT says, well, it means that 50.4% of the time we would expect the southern team to win. And so, saying another way, you'd need to play 200 or 300 games between these two teams as they stand before there is a single game between them favouring the southern team. So it's about as close as you can get. And so opening phases after 7:45, no commander going down extremely early. If we take a look, always like to have a quick look on the reclaim. Well, that's very close. 21,000 and 20,000 minor favouring there to Team 2. Perhaps that's where those 7 points come from. And if we take a look on the live incomes, they're updated all the time. We see their Team 2 are also just 2 to 4 mass per tick ahead. That's literally 1 mass extractor upgraded to Tech 2 more than your opponent. Of course, they are live values, so sometimes are affected by the income. Looks like we've got a drop here from Nuggets. First bit of action, 8 minutes, in he comes. It has gotten pinged and picked up. And Wheelie shoots it down just before it's able to make landfall. Foley was in the area as well with his interceptors. But now Weeky's chucking his in as well. Foley's got no choice but to bail or he's going to lose them all. I think he's going to lose them all anyway. And the drop was unsuccessful. Karoo actually did have a few units there. They would have dealt with it as if it was a primarily artillery drop. These tanks would have picked it up. Sure, the artillery may have gotten closer. Potentially bagged itself the Tech 2 HQ. I'm not sure. Maybe. Who knows? Let us know what you think. With 4 tanks there, would 8 pieces of artillery, 8 Zooies have been able to destroy the T2 HQ? Either way, props to Wheelie for paying attention. That's why he's a 2400 and I'm not. What rating are you then? I hear somebody ask. Well, the answer is somewhere between pathetic and embarrassing. We'll not talk about it. I did actually play 2 or 3 ranked games, or maybe even 5 or 6 just this last month for the first time in, well, years, I think. And Well, yeah. What that moped said, that's how it went. Not great. Some minor engagements in the north there as we get to the 10th minute, but otherwise things kind of quiet. We've got some minor engagements in the south. You know, I always get excited when we get the Tech 1 subs versus the frigates. Appears that the Wiki is not too worried about that. He's going to allow his frigates to eat some damage from the sub without too much to be said. First T3 spy plane coming down from Delhi. The SR-90 Blackbird. Not the SR-71. No, that was, what? I forget exactly what century this game's based in, but it's 300 or 400 years into the future, if memory serves. I can hear little mech marines somewhere. Oh, here we go. Apologies. The Wiki dropping them in. And Foley a little slow to respond there. I thought he might have gotten himself a point defense or some more tanks. He is actually producing some tanks. Of course, the Seraphim not having access to the mech marines or the equivalent do, however, have a decent spy bot and some really nice work there. That's a lot of build capacity down, including a couple of mexes. Foley's going to have to rebuild, so very nice work there from the Wiki. I knew I could hear him somewhere. Sure, there was somebody at home screaming at the screen. You missed it. What's Nuggets doing here? Making his way north. Here's the Seraphim commander. He's got himself Tech 2 and the gun, and importantly here, the TAC missile launcher. He's also somebody that's renaming his commander, actually calling himself the Wiki. So yeah, we'll definitely be sure to go off the scoreboard. Seemingly numerous players renaming themselves on the fly, and that's because he's probably identified this TAC missile defense. I assume he has. Yes, he has, and so he's thought, right, well, I'll wander north then and sneak one in through the side, and there it goes. That's a TAC 2, or a Tech 2, should we say. Mass point with storage. That's 9 mass per tick that Karoo no longer enjoying. Out comes missile number 2. Doesn't appear that Karoo's aware of it yet. Has not started working on TAC missile defense. There destroys mass point number 2. So that's 18 mass. Wiki's still stood there and he's launching a third time. So let's have a little look, and you can see there, look at the devastating impact it's had on Karoo's live eco. He's down to just 71 mass per tick. He's already lost a mass extractor here. Here goes another one. Oh, the TAC missile defense was a second too late. It's perhaps unclear if he would have actually destroyed it at that moment in time. But that's 4 mass points that Karoo's going to have to rebuild. We are now a couple of torpedo bombers making their way over from Wheelie. Perhaps just letting him know that they are in the area, but I don't think that they've connected. I think they were maybe going for the frigate there. Oh, actually, correction. We do see there a little bit of damage inflicted, about 500 hit points coming off that chassis. Nuggets there, very successful. Is a 3-star for that. The veterancy on the commander made up almost entirely off those mass points being destroyed. Of course, it's based on mass killed, and Tech 2 mass points pretty expensive. He's now a 4-star with just 32 kills. The only enemies he's been shooting at with his gun, Tech 1. Elsewhere, players on the ponds still establishing their lines. Nothing too crazy. Kua with the more traditional spread to make sure nothing can creep through. Wiki with a similar situation. Wiki actually seems a little low on forces, so this is always a concern. If your player's got much less units than you do, what are they up to then? And it looks like Kua is a little hesitant and a little reluctant to find out. Wiki continuing to press. He perhaps doesn't want that tap missile defense to be there. Don't blame him. And he could, of course, fire another one at the commander that's routed to the spot should he wish. Instead, he's going to fire into the units there. See what Karoo can see. Well, he can see the commanders there, and he can see it's making his way. He's going to have to cancel that gun. He's like half health. Cancel it, he does, and he moves back. Crew does have Tech 2 engineers right here. They're working on a point defense. They will, of course, be able to assist the commander in an upgrade very quickly, assuming he's got the energy and the mass, and he appears that he does. Manages to get point defense online. He's going to want to get tap missile defense up quick, especially when Nuggets is equipped with such and has one. It's a bit frustrating the way that this is positioned. Makes it a little harder for us to see, but yeah, we can recognize he does have one missile out of one. And being a Tech 2 commander, providing you've got the economy, they recharge reasonably quick. Going to the north. Triple F asking for a shield. Oh, I see, because he's gotten himself a Tech 2 radar. No doubts wants to get that up to a Tech 3 and quick. And it responds with the shield. If we come back to the northern pond, this is the action that I've been told was absolutely fantastic. You know who you are. You sent it in. The Wheelie versus Foley. And so far, I have to say, this is tipping Wheelie's way. Wheelie's pushed him all the way back. In fact, Foley's already gotten himself Tech 3 mass extractors on the side island inside 17 minutes and is very light on the ability to defend. Tap missiles out from the Wiki once again. Is he going to pick off these Thunderheads? Yes, he does. One shot, one kill. Being a Tech 1 unit, the only thing he needs to know is where it is and then for the unit to stay still. And so, yeah, back into the north. This certainly is where it's at. Wheelie comfortably in charge and no choice but to retreat. This is unbelievable. Overwhelming forces there from the green player. Despite being sat on a smaller eco, Wheelie on 180 per tick, Foley on 280. But if you take a look at what's going on, you'd think that would be reversed. Foley now chucking torpedo bombers into the mix. We've got our first real air engagement so far. We've got cruisers now as well from Wheelie. This will be able to tip the balance any air fight, and you can see there Delhi very happy to have his air fight over the top of that cruiser despite having inferior numbers. And look at this cruiser with 7 kills so far. Aeon cruiser, arguably one of the best when it comes to air-to-air, arguably one of the shittest at everything else. And they're finally succumbing to Foley's huge wave of torpedo bombers. He's got 12, he's got another 4 coming down here just as well because he's gotten kicked out of the water. He's trying to spam engineers out all the time. I guess he's just trying to tie up the targeting of these ships. These are all Tech 2 support factories and air factories as well, of course, having the ability to produce torpedo bombers as well as engineers, and he's picked them all off. Air fights continuing. Everything, it seems, hangs off what happens here. I'm going to focus in on this at the expense of all else. Wheelie, I bet he wished he just had a couple more cruisers into this area because he's getting absolutely annihilated by these torpedo bombers from Foley. You see both the air players desperately chucking in everything they have. Both teams aware that what happens here is of crucial importance for the rest of the game. Just seems like Triple F has got slightly more production than his opponent. And Wheelie is going to have to shift gears a bit. I mean, look at this extremely aggressively placed naval yards there from Wheelie. Or yeah, Wheelie. Foley's identified the target and is now going for the Navy yards themselves. He's actually switched over from working on the Navy. And look at this, the side island with the T3 Max all but finished off. There's a solitary Tech 2 Max mechs that remains. And that's now taken the focus of the destroyers, but really forced to back off a bit. Engineers forced into producing Tech 1 anti-air turrets, which not necessarily the best at going after torpedo bombers, but if that's all that you've got, it's all that you've got. We've got these little attack boats from the Aeon that's, again, probably the best at anti-air at the Tech 1 stage, but the shittest at everything else. They do, of course, have a separate boat at the Tech 1 stage that the other factions don't, that has no anti-air capability. But like most things in this game, at the end of the day, it's more or less balanced. Finally, a much-needed cruiser coming down from Wheelie. And for now, the situation's somewhat stabilizing for our green friend there. Green Ion friend as well. It's always nice when players pick the color that's representative of the faction. Nuggets, realizing his pal is in bother, gets into the pond. He's got a Tech 2 factory there and already a couple of, actually make that 3. Sorry, 4 destroyers here from Nuggets. Well, that's going to make a huge difference in this battle at this stage. And Foley with a huge wave of torpedo bombers once more. 22 torpedo bombers. He could split that easily between 3 Tech 2 ships and ensure pretty much a one-shot on them, providing they're not camping out underneath a shield boat. And really not having one. There was a nice spy plane. We've got at least 3 cruisers here from Wheelie, so those would be primary targets. But Foley actually going for some destroyers that were a bit far ahead of the field. Now the cruisers are getting their shots. Now the torpedo bombers have been redirected towards the cruisers. So most, if not all of those torpedo bombers were given one free pass there at the Navy. Thanks to some excellent micro from Foley. And that's forced Wheelie back once again. And while all of this has been taking place, Foley, just a few, well, I guess we'd call it miles in the game to the south, already has got himself, look at this, talk about confidence. He's not even stopping at Tech 2. He's going straight up to Tech 3, relying on the few pieces of Navy there from Nuggets, his few hover tanks, and primarily the torpedo bombers. Thankfully, the air dominance from Triple F is allowing this to take place. We've now got broadswords from Triple F as well, and this really is a problem for Wheelie, because these broadswords are going to be able to focus down on the factories or the build capacity, anything that they like. And yeah, Wheelie has got to be hurting now. This would already be over in the northern pond were it not for the combined efforts of air, granted one of which from Foley. Quick look in the south, we can see we've got the Tech 3 ships in the mix. Battlecruiser there with 21 kills, although not very much veterancy, so it must have been very low value targets, but nonetheless outranged by the battleships from the Cyberns, or indeed any other faction. It happens to be the Cyberns, but yeah, in the north, yeah, that's got to hurt. And I'm sure, Wheelie, if you ever see this, he'll remember it. Yeah, it fucking did. Coming up to the 24-minute mark there. What's this coming through the centre? Karoo with a chicken. World time looks like it's already been picked up by the southern team. Team 2 with a primary focus on it, and indeed they have got it on radar. On the map there. Chicken, yeah, it was spotted half an hour ago. Half an hour ago. And there we see Triple F move his air away from the northern pawns. Delhi sends his inferior number of air superiority fighters in. Now this, what's always worth doing, guys, if you are concerned about your opponent having superior air, but you need to deal with some torpedo bombers and there's a bit of a gap. Just leave 2 or 3 ASF behind and bring the rest of them home. Or better yet, leave 2 or 3 with your guy that's on Navy, and then he can try and pick off torpedo bombers. And if he loses, it's not your entire Air Force. Scouting run here from Triple F. Somebody there who's made good use of the spread or the split move command. I think the default is now G. Hold shift, give multiple orders, press G, and it splits up. It divides the orders equally between all the units that you've selected. And not only that, it picks the units that are closest to each waypoint to go to that waypoint. So it's very useful, whether it's scouts, engineers, tanks, you name it. Of course, that'll be old hat to many of you, but there's always new people watching this, or novices. Some big action now in the southern pond. Huge waves of torpedo bombers there as well from Kuwa. But Wiki able to make use of the UEF shield. On multiple of them. It's not clear there. Did they crack? Yes, they did. Thought perhaps a bit of a power glitch. Nice to see some more action in the south. Still probing attacks going on in the north there, but Foley having broken out. I mean, for goodness sake, the guy was wiped out not 5-10 minutes ago, and now look at it. He's got battleships rolling out. Numerous battleships. It's probably one of the quickest recoveries I've ever seen, from completely out to having rebuilt with a Tech 3 HQ and 2 battleships. Thankfully, his base was not contested. Only the side island was. Look at this. The Navy going for the chicken. The chicken, which can, of course, stand in the shallower water and take shots. He just needs to turn around. There he goes. Plasma balls as he goes. Bang. Down goes one destroyer. And that's going to give Foley something to think about. Out comes another plasma ball. Yeah, Foley does right there to dodge. Of course, beam weapons don't miss, but projectiles that take time to get to their targets potentially do. It's slowed down time. Now I like my occasional cinematics. I realise it makes it hard to see what's going on, so we'll just do it for a few moments. But yeah, these beam weapons, despite having an inferior range, as long as you keep zigging and zagging, which is exactly what these high-rated players do. If I hold down shift there, you can see the orders that are being given. And of course, this is slow down time, so it doesn't make it quite as clear as to how quickly they're actually chopping and changing direction. But that's important so that these projectiles that take time to come across don't have as much chance to connect, such as that. And there we see, although this is just a frigate, but nonetheless. Bang, there we go. Alright, let's put the camera back on. We hear a wave of torpedo bombers, this time from Delhi. It's been a bit quiet on air for the last 10 minutes or so. Perhaps has had time to rebuild. He's got a number of ASF there. And Foley, a little light on anti-air ships, has thrown some flak into the mix. Carew there with a battleship. Looks like he's focused on the other opposite number. Out comes a mobile shield there from Wheelie to defend the battleship. Eats one broadside, then the shield goes down. And looks like players getting ready for an ASF fight. Huge wave of torpedo bombers there from Delhi into the southern pond, focusing on these Barracudas, the Tech 2 sub-killer there from Kuwa. Problem is, when your opponent gets a bit one-dimensional in thinking, producing a few too many battleships, your opponent can secretly gather up a bunch of subs, and then very little the battleships can do against it. And there we go. Torpedo bombers were handed off. from the air player over to Weekend. Out comes the first nuke, and this is actually a sub-nuke. 3 kills, in it goes. Do we have an anti-nuke? Oh, it's like 98% online. Oh, you need it now. Kuwa's on the run, but I don't think he's going to get out of dodge in time. The nuke goes in, and look at that. The anti-nuke is 99%. Should have started it 10 seconds earlier. Oh, man. Yeah, there we go. That SMD was 99%, and now it's loaded. It just loaded. Oh, my goodness, the frustration. Kuwa. Yeah, we feel your frustration there. That was so close. Did it actually cover the area? It's gone over to Nuggets. Let's have a little look. Yes, it did. Ah, that is so unlucky. Or lucky, depending on which way you view it. So the first real victory there going to Team 1. The Wiki bagging himself the first kill. And even without the kill, it was HQs together with a build capacity. Perhaps that'll open up the southern pond, which so far has been very much 50-50. Even with the torpedoes from Delhi, it has to be said. Nuggets, or Kuwa initially holding very well. It's now going over to Nuggets. Nuggets on double eco. So we take a look at the scores. Team 2, 1,800 mass per tick. Northern team, 1,700 mass per tick. Team 2, the first team, just to trickle over 2 million on the overall score. Now take a look on mass totals, also slightly ahead there as well. Around 5 or 6%. Once again, Wheelie pressing out in the northern side. Emboldened with a little bit of support here from the battleships as we pass the half-hour mark. Also making use of the Aeon Tech 2 floating unit, the Blazes. And plenty of frigates in that mix still. Very effective versus the battleship, of course. They can just swarm the battleships, and if the battleships do decide to shoot at the frigates, or even worse, the Blazes, that's one less shot versus some of the bigger, more expensive units, such as the opponent's battleships, which is why mixing Navy is never really not effective. Unlike land, you can say that varies. Once you get to the Tech 3 stage, not often worth producing Tech 1, with the exception of artillery. And that right there, that was a very crucial air fight we caught the tail end of, and that looks like Delhi has actually won air. So air's just gone over to Team 1. We've seen Team 2 in charge of air all game, and that has just switched. Delhi could do worse than get some air repair pads and get what ASF if he's got left from that fight over the top patrolling. There's at least 50 ASF there. He could do with getting those fueled up, repaired, back into the fight. We'll take another look to the south. This time it's Karoo. Well, with the very lazy yet very effective tactic of sending Zooies at your opponent. Looks like they're going to bag themselves a SAM site there almost for free as they continue getting closer. Looks like Nuggets has got just enough to prevent them getting too much further. But I have to say, this southern pond has gone massively weak his way ever since that nuke impacted. The chicken that we did see making its way through, having to double back. And actually, I think it's been destroyed at some stage, or at least I'm not seeing it. Northern Pond, pretty much 50-50. And this is really what this game's about. Arguably, two of the best players, certainly two of the best Setons players, I'm wanting to say of all time, really. And here they are, head to head, in a game taking place just 12 hours ago as I record this. And Triple F fancying a stab. And this here is perhaps a bit of a mistake. Delhi had all these broadswords. I'm not sure why he didn't send them in. We see the torpedo bombers there from Foley being sent in, and I think Air's just gone over to Triple F. I don't believe this. It's changed hands and it's changed hands again. And now Triple F is on the tail of all these broadswords. There's almost no defense there from Delhi. Delhi there with a fantastic split move. Look at that. If we take a look at that, beautiful move there. And that's going to make it very difficult for Triple F to pursue all of those groups, which is exactly why Delhi did it. And with it, hangs on to most of the broadswords that were almost going to be lost for sure. Gets embroiled in another ASF fight, and this time, I don't know what happened to the advantage that Delhi had on ASF, but it lasted about 30 seconds. Yeah. All the big firepower here is with Foley, but all the little annoying units are with Wheelie. They could do worse than focus on that battleship there that's just, well, it looks like it's going to go 900 hit points. Come on, finish it off, man. 700 hit points, and it does get it. Somebody somewhere gets it, and this was actually a really good counter here from Triple F. Flying over the top with a bunch of broadswords, and look at that, all that annoying shite has just disappeared. Foley says thank you. And at 35 minutes, the northern pond appears to be subject to one of the greatest comebacks, having been all but wiped out. Is now 2/3 to 3/4 of the way to the other side, and Wheelie looking desperately short of units to prevent it. I mean, he's got engineers out front trying to build naval yards, perhaps just for spam and shielding purposes. Again, for players who are wondering perhaps what I mean by that, the navy yard, if your unit can shoot through a navy yard but your enemy units can't, they shoot at the navy yard first, and only then do the rounds pass through. So navy yards can be used as a very cheap shielding method if you can build them. And look at this. The Wheelie has just produced a bunch of subs out of nowhere. There are 15 Tech 2 subs here. And again, what we were talking about just a few minutes ago about the one-dimensional way the players can get. This time it's the battleships. So I'm not seeing very many destroyers here from Foley, so these subs are going to have their way, at least for a while. The problem for Wheelie is his opponent has air dominance, which of course means torpedo bombers, and there's nothing that the subs can do about that. There's a bunch of frigates here as well as the sub-hunters, continuing to cause chaos. Broadswords here as well from Triple F, and yeah, Delhi's going to sacrifice all of his ASF in the pursuit of these broadswords, and it looks like he does manage to kill them off, but he's lost all of his air to do that. And now Foley moving in with these torpedo bombers, as we feared, versus these sub-hunters. And so all that Wheelie did there was buy himself another 30-40 seconds of the inevitable. What's this? Kuru has been picked up and primaried by a bunch of battleships. Looks like he realized far too late what was going on. He's just 2,400 hit points. He's got a shield that's about to crack. He's Tech 3, so he'll be able to build shields pretty quick. And the shield has cracked. He's 2,700 hit points. And that is a broadside. And that is good night. Our second player down. Making it a 3 versus 3. Foley bringing it back. What was a very nice move from those subs, unfortunately countered by the air. And there is not much that can be done about that. We see Delhi once again with a wave of broadswords, but he doesn't really have the ASF to protect them effectively. I mean, we see there, Foley, pings of desperation, help. So much flak here as well, though, from Foley. It's going to make it unaffordable for these broadswords, these Tech 3 gunships there from Delhi, the UEF, to hang around. And now, yeah, Triple F gets on his 6 and he's going to make him pay. And he's pursuing them all of those broadswords. That is painful. Beautiful pickup from Triple F. Surprised he let any live. Delhi, once again, with an inferior air force providing pressure. I think he's trying to encourage a fight over here, but, you know, there's only a handful of SAMs, 4 or 5. They're not really going to make much difference in an air engagement that's as mismatched as this. What do we actually see here? ASF-wise, we're 100 from Delhi versus 274 from Triple F. Yeah, 4 or 5 SAM sites really not going to make any difference there. Broadswords now from Triple F roaming the map. Look at all these naval yards that they've picked off almost with impunity. And Foley, got to be feeling good about this after getting ready to lob in the towel in the first portion of the game. Wiping out his opponent's coastline. And at 40 minutes, this is Wheelie on the run. Rebranded as Delhi. Who is trying to build a shield here. To me, this is just rearranging deck chairs on a sinking Titanic. There's not much point. You may as well go back and try and get a quantum gateway and somehow remain useful. Meanwhile, south side, things going much better for Team 1 as we keep pushing in. Almost up to the coastline. We've got Nuggets with a huge wave of torpedo bombers here. Wiki has shielded the area, but the torpedoes break through. Battleship almost going down. Wiki pushing more shield boats forward all the time. We've got huge numbers of bulwark shields. We've got cruisers, battleships. Credit to Nuggets for holding as long as he has down here, has to be said. He's doing very well. He's got the cyber and harm system. That's probably responsible for a lot of the hold-up. As well as these Wagners. The T2 Cyber tank that do have their little torpedo launchers. They're not marvellous, but in enough numbers, they certainly cause a problem to a Navy that doesn't have any torpedo launchers. Yeah, look at the range of these battleships. Tearing up the forward air grid now of Delhi. Do have ourselves a chicken here. Belonging to Wheelie. It's not going to be able to do much against the Navy, but it might do stuff against landfall. And a big air fight now on the 41st minute. Triple F once again dominating, and now he's got his broadswords that are going to be able to roam around for free. Got a few Janus fighter bombers trying to sneak into the back there onto Delhi's air grid. Don't quite get through. But look at the damage these broadswords can inflict. There's almost nothing to stop them. We've got a few sporadic SAM sites, but it's going to be far too little too late. That's another forward air grid there that Team 1 could ill afford to lose. Going down almost in its entirety. Thought Orange was Golmo. Nuggets was 1k mass income since he get my base. Yeah, lol. Must have missed something. I thought it's Golmo. How the F did we not lose? We is a noob.
Strategic launch detected.
The 2700 is a noob. Oh, look at this. He snuck a nuclear sub onto the edge. Where's that going? Where he's going to thread it through. Surely there's an anti-nuke. Slow this down. Slow it down. Surely there's an anti-nuke. Usually the players build it there. Triple F he has. Is it loaded? Yes, it is. 3 missiles in the clip. And that nuke is going awfully close to the edge. Let's go back to full time. Saw where the edge. Oh, it's very, very close. I'm sure Wiki has taken that into consideration. It's thread through. I don't believe it. It's gone past the nuke defense. Triple F so confident his nuke defense was going to get it. He doesn't even move. And that is a nuke to the face. And with it, a much needed victory there for Team 1 that were looking more than a little light. Certainly, Delhi's going to be feeling better about that. He's been struggling on air all game. Triple F can't believe what's happened. He didn't see the nuke coming. He can't have heard the notification. I'm not even sure if there was one. I was more excited about the positioning than anything else. Nuggets has realised there was a nuke sub there. Look at that, 88 kills, 105,000 mass, making that sub nuke a 5-star. Triple F thinks maybe it was a Telly Billy. Kuwa thinks maybe it was a nuke sub, and yep, Kuwa's correct. And Nuggets is going to finish that off. Nice work there from Nuggets. Even nicer work from Wiki, sneaking that nuke sub in. Nobody realising where it was. And suddenly a game that was all but over for Team 1 has another chance. We got here. Defense Sats moving the way across the map from Foley. And limited air there that Delhi has. Get a bit too close to all these carriers. Yeah, this is all that the chicken's good for, coming out and dealing with some of these engineers that are trying to encroach onto land. Alright, 44 minutes then. Who do you think's got this? Well, despite losing the air there, Foley's looking so strong. Nuggets is looking pretty strong as well. So Team 2 still looking really strong despite this Navy. It is now causing damage further back, but it's taken quite a long time for Wiki to knock this door through. Take a look at the economies. It's about 300 masts per tick between them, make that 400 now, favouring Team 2. So every time we've looked, Team 2's been marginally ahead. Take a look on totalities, yep. They're almost 500,000 mass ahead over the course of the game, 3.8 million versus 3.3. And here's this defense sat, bags itself the very volatile mass fabricators. That takes out the storage, and with it the mass extractor's gone very quickly. What's happening here? Ping's going down, and that's because Delhi is a... Oh, it's a Telly Billy. Well, we heard one of the players earlier on suspecting Telly Billy. Well, here it actually is. He's got the resource allocation, the Billy and the teleporter, so we will track, and here he is. He's teleported himself down. We're going to have to slow time right down because I can just see on the top of the map there something else is taking place. We're going to have to split the screen, and let's follow the commander with the left screen, and on the right screen, oh, it's a bunch of experimental bombers. Look at this. 2 experimental bombers going into the back of the base. They're seconds too late to be able to defeat the commander. Let's pick up the pace back to real time. Onto the air grid, bombs away. Looks like the commander's teleported a second time. The first bomb connects, the second bomb connects and cracks the shield and inflicts massive amount of damage. What limited ASF there were available to shoot down one of the Tech 4 experimental bombers. Renames his commander now to Soul Ripper. Oh, he's flown over there. He's teleported. He fires a Billy into the lake. There's nothing in the lake. He must have been going for the Wiki. The Wiki has moved away. Wiki's firing tap missiles at Soul Ripper. Or should I say... Oh, what was his... Memory's gone. Delhi. So many name changes.
Strategic launch
Weak in Delhi, we've got a triple nuke fired in. Who's fired that? That can only be the Navy there. But unfortunately, look at the damage that's been inflicted. We can focus back over here. And Delhi goes bang thanks to all of those gunships. But what happened to the 3 nukes? 3, 2, and there's 1 nuke left. Oh, and that's gotten shot down as well. So many anti-nukes. This time there's a huge wave of anti-nukes to the north. We've got 4 of them. These are out from Foley. There's 1 shot down. There's 2. But the other 2 are going to connect, and with it, the wheelie, who was stood in the middle of that, goes down. The Wiki left holding the bag, the 2700, another sub-nuke out there getting shot down. Foley responds with a huge wave of torpedo bombers, cracks the shields. It's unclear if he's got enough left to finish off these subs that for now don't appear to have any left in the clip. Wow. So 47 minutes. What's going on? What options does he have left? He's renamed himself to Turbo 2. What is this? They probably know they're going to get casted, and right, what we're going to do, we'll keep changing our names and it'll really fuck them up. Especially if that tactical what's it starts to try cast it. You know, he can't call us right at the best of times. Yeah, you have your fun. If you can do a game like this, I don't care. The Wiki there going for upgrades on the 48th minute. Look at that. Minus 196,000 energy. When have you ever seen that? Oh, you've seen it here today. 200,000 energy in the negative. I'm not even sure if a Paragon could keep up with that. Somebody can let us know. Wiki there chucking away what little air he's got left. I'm guessing he wants to see where the opponent is. I mean, he's not got much left to do because of the amount of nukes that Foley has access to. His base is limited. Look at this. We've got Billy, we've got Teleporter, and we've got the resource allocation and energy storage for days. And Wiki, is he charging? Or is he trying? He's trying to get some other upgrade. What's he trying to get? He must be trying to build the actual Billy itself. If you take a look there, lower left, Billy is not constructed. He must be really short on energy, but come on, there's energy everywhere, man. Why is it taking so long to build? Oh, it looks like the drones are doing it. So ignore the progress bar there on the commander. Oh, it must have bugged. He's decided to cancel the upgrade and go again. That is unfortunate. There was a bug at the worst possible time. He needed that Billy, he needed it now. But he has got a lot of eco, so he's able to build this pretty quick. And he is now teleporting. And this time, oh, he forgot to build the Billy. He's got no Billy, and he's teleporting. He didn't have time. There's an enemy sat overhead. Where's he going to go? Well, in kind of the wrong place, really. I guess it's too late. He's committed. He could cancel it, but I don't think he's got time to go again. Enemy sat overhead, right next to the commander. He could do worse than reclaim that P-Gen so it don't go critical on him. Oh, it's going to be close. Let's slow down time. And he's gone. There he is in the lake. And there is Wiki. So he did reposition. But he doesn't have a Billy. He forgot to build the Billy before teleporting. Either forgot or he didn't have the time, which is not quite clear. Wiki's got 55,000 hit points, so I'm not sure if the Billy could finish that anyway. There's a bit of manual ground fire with all of those gunships. And what we have here, ladies and gentlemen, is a huge wave of torpedo bombers there from Foley. And they're only going to be going after one target. The last remaining player from Team 1. And there he goes. 50 minutes in and the game is over. One of the highest rated games you'll see. Certainly that I've seen for some time that's been worthy of a cast that didn't desync. I do hope you enjoyed it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget, if you do fancy checking out Patreon, there are a whole bunch of games over there. I think we've got 33 casts over there now, so if you do want to see some on, you can spare a couple of quid /dollars/euros. Do go head on over. Like to give a huge shout out for everybody who's already over there. Thank you very much for supporting the channel, and until next time, wherever in the world you may be, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Take care. Bye-bye. See ya.